Welcome. Today, we're stepping into an explainer of some truly fascinating source material, a joint syllabus from BRAC University and the GHEA21 Network. I like to call this the collaborative crucible. Now, I'm going to be your academic moderator today, and we are not here to score cheap debate points, okay? We're not just trying to win an argument. Instead, we're going to see how dismantling really complex, highly charged propositions using formal logic and hard empirical evidence can actually sharpen our minds way better than any competitive debate ever could. So let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this agenda. We're looking at 1. Falsification, stress testing ideas. 2. The collaborative refutation playbook. 3. Topic 1. Imperial revival. 4. Testing the Ukraine arguments. 5. Topic 2. Dead internet. And finally, 6. Winning by thinking better.
Section 1. Falsification, stress testing ideas, and the paradigm shift.
All right, so to really grasp a massive global issue, we have to make a major mental shift. We absolutely have to let go of this urge to just win the argument. Winning is competitive, right? But understanding? That's collaborative. So the whole foundation for our Crucible today is based on Karl Popper's theory of falsificationism. Basically, this scientific principle says that a theory is only genuinely empirical if it can logically be proven false by observation or evidence. Think of it kind of like building a bridge. You don't prove a brand new bridge is safe by rolling a little 10-pound bicycle over it and shouting, "Hey, look, it held up perfectly." No, you test it by driving a massive, fully loaded semi-truck over it just to see exactly what could break it. And today, we are actively looking for those heavy trucks that could break our arguments.
I absolutely love this quote straight from the syllabus. The mark of a genuine empirical claim is not that it can be proven, but that it can be falsified, that there exists some imaginable evidence that would disprove it. You see, we're hunting for the intellectual breaking points of these huge geopolitical and technological claims. Think about it. If an argument you scroll past on your social media feed is so vague or so purely emotional that literally no imaginable evidence could ever disprove it, well, then it's not a fact. It's really just dogma.
Section 2. The collaborative refutation playbook. Building the crucible.
So how do we actually do this in the real world? Let's break down the exact playbook for engaging with opposing views honestly and collaboratively. The crucial point here is this 3-step process. Step 1, steelman the opposing claim. You don't look for their weakest link. Instead, you build the absolute strongest, most intimidating, Godzilla-sized version of your opponent's case. You don't weaken it, you make it bulletproof. Step 2, identify the specific empirical test. Ask yourself, what exact piece of physical data or historical event would prove this super strong claim false? And step 3, collaborate to refine the counterargument. You actually work with the opposition to sharpen each other's points before the debate even starts. Wild, right?
Now, to pull this off properly, we have to stay totally neutral and dodge some major traps. As your fair academic moderator, I've got to insist that you avoid attacking caricatures or strawman versions of the other side's views. You also really want to avoid reducing these incredibly complex structural security dilemmas to just the psychological pathologies of individual leaders. It's almost never that simple. And finally, don't confuse post hoc rationalizations, the excuses people make up after the fact to justify something they already did, with the actual causal facts that triggered the event in the first place. Avoiding these specific logical fallacies, that is your absolute best weapon for getting real clarity.
Section 3, Topic 1, Imperial revival and the war in Ukraine.
Okay, let's step into the crucible to test the underlying motivations behind this truly devastating conflict, which, according to the source material we're analyzing, has entered its 5th year as of April 2026. Let's move through the timeline and see how this builds historically. We kick off with the 2008 intervention in Georgia. Then, 2014 hits us with the Maidan coup in Kyiv and Russia's annexation of Crimea. Fast forward a bit to 2021, and Vladimir Putin publishes his essay on the historical unity of Russians and Ukrainians, where he effectively denies the historical legitimacy of Ukrainian nationhood altogether, which of course brings us to the 2022 full-scale invasion. And now, as of April 2026, we're looking at stalled peace talks over territory and failed 32-hour Easter ceasefires. As you can see, the deep historical patterns of territorial control are just totally inextricably linked to the reality on the ground today.
So let's neutrally lay out the core propositions we need to test here. On the force side, the claim is that this invasion is fundamentally an act of imperial nostalgia. Basically, a long-term project of Russification meant to revive the Soviet sphere by absorbing Ukraine and denying its distinct cultural identity. But on the against side, the claim is that the invasion is driven by strategic anxiety.
They argue it's a structural security response to the 2014 Maidan coup, the accelerated Western military aid, and the existential threat of NATO expansion right on Russia's doorstep. So how do we logically falsify these huge claims? Remember our bridge analogy? We need the heavy truck. For the imperial expansion claim, a really vital falsifying data point is looking at geopolitical reality right now. As of 2026, Russia actually hasn't attempted to annex Moldova or the Baltic states, even though they have the conventional capacity to threaten them. That kind of limits the predictive power of a purely imperial revival thesis, doesn't it? On the flip side, if we test the security and NATO claim, we have to look closely at timing. If NATO was the primary driver, wouldn't Russia have had way stronger incentives to invade back in 2014, when Ukraine was militarily weaker and way less integrated with the West, instead of waiting for 2022 when Putin was consolidating his domestic power? We also have to look at military doctrine. Strategic success usually requires a 3-to-1 troop advantage, yet currently NATO has a 2-to-1 conventional edge over Russia and Belarus. These are the concrete, testable data points we absolutely need to bring to the table. Moving right along to Section 4, Topic 2, Dead Internet, or the synthetic web. All right, now we are tackling the eerie, kind of unsettling possibility that the online reality we inhabit every single day is completely manufactured. But it's absolutely vital that we distinguish between two distinct versions of this theory before we start our analysis. The weak version simply states that automated bot content quantitatively dominates the web. It's basically an empirical, structural problem of sheer volume. The strong version, however, takes it way further. It argues that this isn't an accident at all. It claims state and corporate actors are deliberately orchestrating this whole thing to manufacture consent and suppress authentic political expression. We really must separate the empirical reality of bot traffic from the conspiratorial claim of a coordinated psychological op. Get a load of this number. According to the Human Security 2026 report, which analyzed over 1 quadrillion digital interactions, by the way, AI agent traffic surged by an absolutely astonishing 7,800% over the course of just a single year. That's enough synthetic data to drown out the real internet entirely. Automated bots now actually generate more internet traffic than human beings do. So if we're testing the weak version of the dead internet theory, well, this data essentially confirms it. It is an undeniable, empirical reality. The empirical evidence of the synthetic web is literally everywhere. Automated traffic is growing at roughly 24% year over year, while actual human traffic is inching along at barely 3%. Plus, we have documented proof of state-backed manipulation, like the pro-Kremlin internet research agency's coordinated inauthentic behavior during the 2024 elections. And get this, it's almost funny in a dark way. When the social platform Dig relaunched in January 2026 explicitly to combat bot infiltration, they had to shut the whole thing down just 2 months later because, well, the bots completely overwhelms it. You just can't make that up. But here's the critical question. Does this prove the strong conspiratorial version? Actually, scratch that. Consider this instead. The business model of advertising-funded platform capitalism structurally incentivizes synthetic engagement anyway. Corporations don't necessarily need to hold a secret smoky room meeting to conspire. They just follow the financial logic, and that logic naturally amplifies bots. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens when we apply our Popperian falsification test to the strong conspiracy claim. We hit a massive brick wall. The claim is that there is a covert, flawless orchestration of all online discourse. But wait a minute. If this secret conspiracy is working flawlessly to suppress authentic human thought, why is it generating the very discourse that exposes it? Genuine covert manipulation wouldn't produce flourishing academic literature, massive congressional hearings, and mainstream commentary that openly discusses the dead internet, right? The falsifying observation here is that human creativity, niche communities, and independent journalism actually haven't disappeared at all. They've just had to adapt to a much noisier, much more artificial internet. Section 5, Winning by Thinking Better, the Synthesis. Let's take a step back from all these specific propositions about Ukraine and the dead internet, and let's synthesize what we've learned. It's time to reflect on the true purpose of this entire academic exercise. Like the instructors of this brilliantly designed course noted, winning is completely beside the point. What truly matters is thinking critically and qualifying our positions honestly. The world's most difficult geopolitically complex questions, whether they're about historical identity, territorial control, or the authenticity of the information environments we scroll through every day, they just aren't solved by scoring cheap debate points. They're solved when both sides are forced to think carefully, logically test their assumptions, and then leave the room with a much, much sharper understanding of exactly what they believe and why they believe it. So, I want to leave you with this final, really provocative thought. Ask yourself, if your most deeply held belief was proven empirically false tomorrow, are you truly prepared to change your mind? Because that right there is the ultimate test of the collaborative crucible. I highly encourage you to take this Popperian framework, this rigorous demand for falsifiable evidence, and start applying it to your own daily media consumption. Thank you so much for exploring this explainer and stepping into the crucible with me today. Keep testing your ideas.